Hello, I'm Derek, and welcome in this video about writing PHP extensions. In this installment, we are going to implement our simplify function on our LineString, analogous to the function that we implemented all the way in one of the first videos. We'll start by adding our function to the stubs file. We'll call this function simplify. If you remember from earlier, the algorithm uses this epsilon value, how smooth the simplified line should be. In our first attempt, we're going to make this return an array, just like our function did. We don't have to specify the coordinate pairs, of course, as this is already part of the LineString's property points. The next thing to do is to implement our own method. The algorithm that we're going to use is part of our libraries, so we'll have to include the library first. And now we can add the method. As usual, the first thing to do is to accept our arguments. We have one here, the epsilon, which is a double value. There is one and only exact one. Our epsilon value is a double. And now we close it. We also need to make sure that even though we don't do anything, the function returns an array. Otherwise, we're going to get ZPP errors again, as we specified the return type. As a reminder, the return value we don't have to define because that is part of the send method macro. The rest of the function is fairly simple because we've already implemented that in our procedural version of it. So I will cheat and copy and paste these things over. We'll likely have to make some changes to this, but the concept is the same. Let's go over this to see what we need to modify. Of course, the first thing that we don't have is the points array. Instead, we have it stored in our property, so we'll have to read the property here instead. This is a long function call, so I'm splitting this over multiple lines. We have, however, already seen how to do this, as we can use ZendRead property for this. Which we have used here. I can also copy and paste this. I think that's all we need to do, except for define the variables that we use here as well, which is our geo array and our loop variable. Let us compile this. We still have an error on line 121. That is because C doesn't like trailing commas. We still get one error message. It says there's an implicit declaration of the function geohashtable to array. That basically means that the compiler finds a function that it hasn't seen a declaration for. We had stored our geohashtable algorithm in our geospatial.c file, which is of course not exported, which means that here it doesn't know anything about it. It is this specific function here. I'll open up geospatial.h to see how this looks like again. We use it here, and it's defined here. In this case, we've already not marked this as a static function, meaning that it is usable from other functions around it as well. But a C compiler still needs to know that it exists. For this, we can create a forward declaration. That is basically the declaration of the function without any body. Let me just do that. These are called forward declarations. The better thing to do is actually to extract geohashTableToArray to its own C file with its own header file, which both of these C files can then include. I might change to that later, but for now this should suffice. Now when we run make, we get no errors. Let us run the tests as well. The test still works too, which is good news. However, of course, we have to create a new test file for our new method. I will copy over the test file that we already have because the results should be the same. We will, however, have to change all the function calls and the description. The extraction from the JSON file is still the same. However, we'll have to construct a line string for this. And then the invocations aren't RDP simplify, but to call simplify on the line string. We also don't have to give it a points array. Now the test should already work. Let's run it. We now have our method simplify on our LineString class, but it still returns an array. It would of course be much nicer if it instead returned a new LineString. That's what we'll do in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.